Hi, I'm Theo Boyd, and I'm a Texas author that wrote My Grief Is Not Like Yours. It is a memoir over my life on the farm and the losses that turned into griefs that I went through from 2019 until 2022. This is my first book to write, although I've written the second one, but I'm going to read from this book that was released May 9th of 2023. The week of the accident was spent planning and preparing for Mama's funeral. The most stressful time for those of us left behind is the time between when we lost them and the funeral to honor them. What an intimate relationship funeral directors have with the families during this time. I guess it's only as intimate as the family allows. There is so much to plan and figure out. Many families plan to not plan. They don't even have a funeral. Often, this is based on the wish of their loved one, but sometimes they just can't. My heart aches when I think of all the losses and the families not able to have funerals or remembrance gatherings because of sickness or financial hardship. So many broken hearts are left to break even more because they are forced to find different ways to say goodbye. I am eternally grateful for the closeness I felt during the week of the funeral, the warmth I received from others, and the luxury of a mere touch. When Mama's accident happened, I wasn't sure how I would go on. I couldn't bear the thought of never seeing her again. I had heard the deputy tell me what killed her. I couldn't wipe any part of what he said out of my mind. The way I remembered her was just that, a memory. I knew I would probably never see her beautiful face again. My mind was forming the pictures over and over, the images sharpening with each hour that passed, but I didn't care. I wanted to go where she was and see her. I had images left blank to be filled in by my imagination. Daddy said he is so glad that my sister and I didn't see her out there. Mama, our Mama. But I would have given anything to have known she was still close. I could have held her in that space in between. I could have held her in my arms. I could have felt her body again, still with some warmth of life left inside. I could have remembered a time when she was still here, still filled with life. I would have wrapped her arms around me and put my face next to hers. I would have laid with her where she was and felt her. I would take in the past with long, deep breaths, feeling the dirt going under my fingernails from the ground where I played as a child. I would bury my face in her hair, smelling the tractor's grease, covered by the scent of her purple bearded irises blooming from past springs. I would have, but it didn't happen that way. That evening, as I drove up to my parents' new home just across the way from the old farmhouse, it never dawned on me that if I had turned my head to glance to my right, it's possible I would have seen some of the accident. I found out later that it had happened there and that I had only missed the first call vehicle by a few minutes. That is what they call the van or car or hearse that goes out when called to come pick up a dead body. I never thought about looking for a specific vehicle while driving closer to the farm, much less at who would be at the wheel. Over the years, I found it very impressive that when riding with Mama and Daddy in a car, no matter the occasion, they always noticed other vehicles. There goes, or I think we just passed. It's their generation. They were the generation before cell phones, satellite radio, and all the fanciness of today's automobiles. They were the generation that looks out the window instead of down at a small one. It was the generation that valued relationships with the same regard as raising their children. If Mama or Daddy had been driving to an accident involving one of us, you can bet they would have been able to give the color, make, and model on each car they passed along their way and who was driving it. I was eagerly curious about every part of what happened in those first few minutes and hours after the accident. I didn't know what, who, when, or where exactly. I needed to know everything. I like to know exactly what happened so I can face it, accept it, and try to move past it. It took years to piece different portions of the events together. Early the morning after the accident, Daddy said, "Last night they asked me where to take Sue, and I said Marshall and Marshall." When Daddy said he directed them to take Mama to Marshall and Marshall, I called and Joni answered. She told me that Mr. Fine had brought Mama there last night. When I told Daddy this, he burst into tears. Mr. Fine! Oh, Sue would have been so glad that he got her. She loved Mr. Fine so much. We love Mr. Fine. So, Mr. Fine was driving that vehicle. He carefully and quietly picked her up out of that farm field. He did. Amid all of the chaos, Mr. Fine had Mama. He drove her down that dusty gravel road, her last time to leave the farm. He drove her away. Did he sing to her? It dawned on me that now Mama could hear. Did he play any music for her on their ride together? Mama, who drove me to piano lessons for 13 years, never hearing a note, could now hear. I remember hearing Mr. Fine sing a duet with my sister at my Aunt Ruby Nell's graveside service in 2012. He had a powerful yet soothing voice. I can't remember the song, but I remember being impressed. My sister has always had a beautiful singing voice, but I had no idea Mr. Fine was also a singer. For some reason, this scene replayed when I pictured him going out there to get Mama the evening before. Mama could never quite hear the melody or make sense of music. Melody and pitch couldn't be measured, so it all just came through as noise to her, a loud rumbling sound, as she would try to explain it to us. Now she could hear it all, every note. Isn't it odd how we think we know someone until we are put in their direct path and then we see them for the first time? Their role starts to play out in our life and we really see them. I was starting to see Mr. Fine as a person and not just a figure at the funeral home. As I attempted to put myself in his shoes, I found my awareness of him begin to evolve. I began to think of him as a friend. What you may find as you go down this road called grief is that you will not only feel your pain, but also take on the pain of others. I hurt when others hurt. The deepest parts of my heart hurt when I thought of the hot, dusty, dirty, and grotesque scene he arrived to find that late July day. Their last scene together, the scene where he picks her up and carries her away. As I learned a few more details about how that all went down, so to speak, I found out Mr. Fine went to get Mama by himself. I can't imagine that. I know this is his profession, but it's not a job to be taken lightly. He knew Mama. He really knew her. How hard that must have been. I wanted to return some comfort to Mr. Fine for the hurt and sadness he had to endure just because that was his job. All I kept thinking about was writing him a thank you card, but instead it turned into a chapter. He gets a chapter in this book, and it's still not enough. This is from the chapter 10, The Final Goodbyes. I believe a casket says a lot about a person. There are several ways to decide how your body will be handled when you die. Many people are deciding to be cremated rather than buried. For the Boyd family, we are the traditional casket buried in the ground people. As Mr. Fine led us around that room, showing us different options, my breathing was becoming tighter, faster, more uncontrolled. The casket room can do that to a person. It was like walking through Room Store or Haverty's furniture store, but instead of couches and coffee tables, it was caskets in all different finishes and colors. It can be overwhelming because the reality is literally lying in front of you. Daddy didn't go in this room with us. He said that he wanted us to pick it out. You girls know what Sue likes. As we looked around, my sister and I were in agreement that Mama didn't like too busy or too much. She was simple. She was elegant. She was that rare jewel who only needed a soft box to hold her. She was enough. Mr. Fine knew this. He knew her style. After a few minutes, we couldn't find what we were looking for, if we even knew what that was. It felt like we were in some type of eerie game show where you're given just so many minutes to buy something you will live in forever. Mr. Fine could sense our uneasiness. He left for a moment and then came back with a catalog in hand. Once again, I felt as if we were picking out a new piece of furniture for my living room. I wish that was all that it was. We looked, flipping the pages rapidly, beginning to panic that we wouldn't find what we wanted. Then there it was. We both said, "This one." Mr. Fine looked and said, "Well, "That one is actually on clearance." We started laughing. "It's meant to be. Mama loved a good sale." He chuckled. We had no idea about pricing, nor did it matter, but how appropriate that even in her death, she was getting a good deal. She would have loved that. We selected a pale pink casket for Mama, and it was beautiful, just beautiful. Mr. Fine agreed. "It's her." My breathing began to return to normal, and we were able to go back to Daddy and tell him how perfect the casket was. It was like when we were little, picking wildflowers, holding them in our sweaty hands and eagerly taking them to Mama, who would then show Daddy what a pretty bouquet she got. It was as if she were there with us, even in the casket room, guiding us to pick the perfect one. For Mama, it would be a closed casket service. There was really no decision to be made. Mama had suffered a severe head injury. I could only imagine what Daddy saw and felt when he jumped off that tractor, knowing what had just happened. Mama was right there. She was reaching up and Daddy was reaching down. He leaned to his right and his left leg lifted off the clutch. Mama was right in front of that big tractor tire and then gone. In the blink of an eye, in one instant, the way I saw the world changed forever. I was now looking at a world without a mother. She was gone, and I was alone. About 2 days after Mama's accident, while at the funeral home making arrangements, I had questions. I still wanted to see her. My desire to be near her had intensified. Not wanting Daddy to hear the conversation, my sister and I stepped into the hallway. Mr. Fine was leading the way. He let us know that there was a tremendous amount of swelling and that every bone in her head, face, and neck had been broken and completely crushed. Understanding our curiosity, he used his hands to show what path the tire had crossed over her body. It had passed over her upper torso from the left lower part of her shoulder up to the right and everything in between. Her arms, hands, and everything below her shoulders were undamaged. Since there was such a significant injury to the part of Mama we wanted to see the most, her face, Mr. Fine was not sure of what the preparations and the result was going to look like. "It's going to be tough," he said with slight hesitation, as he cleared his throat, taking a slightly deeper breath than I'd heard from him before. As he slowly walked back toward the room where Daddy was, he whispered, "I don't think she ever knew." This was comforting and disturbing all at the same time. When tragedy strikes, we want to know that our loved one didn't suffer. We want answers. We need them. And if we don't get answers, it prolongs our agony and deepens our pain, our hurt, our grief. As we made our way back to Daddy, I found myself wanting to know more. I was happy with what he did share, but until I could see her with my own eyes, I couldn't believe she was really gone. Whether she looked like Mama or not, I didn't care. I needed to see, smell, and touch her. Mr. Fine knew this. I made a quick call to Mama's hairdresser, Raina, at All About Hair. This was a little beauty shop in downtown Hillsboro that Mama and Daddy visited regularly. "We love Raina," Mama would say. I asked Raina if she would be able to go to the funeral home and do Mama's hair. I explained the situation with regard to the damage to Mama. I didn't want her to say she could when maybe she couldn't. This would be hard for her, for anyone. She said, "Yes, I can." There was no hesitation in her voice. She loved Mama and wanted to do this for her. She was a strong woman who had lived through many difficult times in her life, which is why the bond she had with my parents was so strong. They listened to one another through the years, talking, sharing, joking, and caring for one another. Who doesn't love their hairdresser, right? I wanted Mama to be beautiful for Mama. She always took such great care of herself and had a purposeful amount of pride in her appearance. She was always fixed up. I needed her to be herself, forever beautiful. She still had rollers in her hair, Mr. Fine whispered in a gentle tone. Yes, she had just taken a shower. She rolled her hair. We thought she was in for the day, but she wasn't. She wasn't. I blurted all this out as if I'd found a missing piece to a secret puzzle. Mr. Fine saw what we had forgotten, the rollers. Did she have her hearing aid on? I continued to search for more pieces. Yes, she did, he replied. Can you please take it off? Mama never wanted to be buried with her hearing aid because she said she wouldn't need it anymore. I can try, he replied with hesitation. We left this alone. We had to prioritize what was most important, and we knew she was in heaven, no hearing aid needed. If he didn't think this was possible, then we trusted him in that decision. Sensing the shock and sadness that my sister and I were feeling in this moment, Mr. Fine began to tell us something that brought such warmth to our cold reality. He told us that a baby died on the same day as our mama. The baby was there at the funeral home. He explained how he moved the table with the baby over to be close to Mama's table and left them there each night together, Mama with the precious little baby next to her. Last night, I told Sue to take care of that baby now, repeating what he had said to Mama. All I could think of in this moment was how lucky this baby was to have Mama with him. He wasn't there alone. Part of me felt jealous of this baby. He had the best and most cherished mother, my mother, with him, and she had him. She wasn't here with me anymore. She was there with him. I was alone, but they weren't. They had each other. As I began to realize the beauty of this, my jealousy faded. I was so thankful and felt it an honor to hear the most intimate details of what was such a raw and rare moment.